Today I'm going to show you how I make really unusual, weird even, molds for bowls, pen blanks, pretty much all the same, using similar funky materials. When I make these blanks, I don't like to waste the entire center on resins, which can be expensive, and other materials that I have. So I start with a tube or some kind of circumference material that I can wrap the unique stuff around. In this case, I'm using a plastic material, but in the past I've used cardboard and whatever I can find that is circular and a tube shape. As I was assembling these pieces, I switched to a different tube, but I started with making the resin pieces I had, resin pieces with mixtures of wood to straight wood. So you'll see in a second that I have switched to, well, a new tube here. And this is a zebra wood that I'm putting on here, which is long grain. And I pretty much stick with long grain throughout this process, but I moved to a different tube, so I'm alternating between resin pieces, sections that I had left over, and wood, this zebra wood. So I continued to do this until I finished the whole round, and I'm using a thick CA glue, which is pretty noxious to breathe in, but anyway, that's what I used. I probably should have used a hardening spray that might have made it a little bit easier for me to put together, and because it just wasn't an instant dry with this plastic. But nonetheless, I was able to secure it and finish the whole round. The CA glue is just holding it, securing it temporarily. It's the resin that holds it in place and secures it not only to that plastic tube but to each piece that I'm putting around this. My idea of creating molds like this is not for symmetrical things. I'm really more of an asymmetrical kind of artist. I don't like things that are predictable. I like things that are really unusual. So as you can see, I have a little bit of wood and a little bit of resin on that one strip. So it's got to be different, it's got to be unique, and that's what sets me as an artist apart from others who are just doing the same old wood. No offense to that, it's just that I like doing really unusual things. So I came back to this mold a day later, and you can see to the left of what I'm working on that the CA glue is still wet. So it just took a really long time to dry. Thinking back, I should have used the spray. But I'm always trying to do something a little bit different, a little bit unique. I never tried using aluminum flashing on a resin mold before, but I thought I'd try something new. I tried to attach it with rubber bands, but that didn't work. So I've tried a number of different things throughout the years, all in an effort to find that perfect mold making gift. I might have used a plastic flat piece that's malleable. I mean, I didn't have that, so I'm trying this. Actually, this worked, so it was a good thing. Now I'm ready to pour the resin in this. I'm thinking that it's secure and it's not going to leak. That was a mistake, which you'll see later on. But here I mixed both part A and B together, and then I added, this is a Pearlex powder. It is Black Luster, it's called. I think I got it on Amazon. And the next one is a blue, and I just used the rest of that. And it was kind of cold in my shop, so it was thick. So I had to really work at stirring it. I did 3 minutes stir on both of these colors, and you'll see part of that happening. Each one of these colors total was about 300 milliliters. I don't like to mix huge quantities with the paddle, which you see to the left, the red paddle. It's just not necessary, and mixing them by hand can be a little tedious, but it doesn't warrant getting the paddle all messy, and that's a whole nother job of cleanup. So I just mix them with a little stir stick there, or paint stir stick, which seems to be sufficient. So for the pouring of this mold, I decided to try it in layers. So I started with the blue, then went to the black, and then alternated in the hopes that it would somehow mix within the pour itself down around the wood and around the resin chunks that I had glued previously to that plastic tube. And this is where you have to just let creative license do its thing. Do I want that resin to pour down the center of that tube? Will I keep that tube as part of the end design? Will it be interesting? And you never know. So you just kind of you gotta let things flow, and yes, literally and figuratively, just to let that creative thing happen, and hope for the best, and you just get what you get. And as each step of the process in creating, you change things, you add things, you take away things, and that's the way it goes when you're making unusual, one-of-a-kind, unique pieces. I knew I wanted to pour this other piece with a PVC around it, so I made enough resin to fill both of them, I guessed. and my guess was pretty accurate. I ended up having enough to do both of these. And again, I did the layering with the one with the PVC. I have no idea how that's going to turn out, how I'm going to attach it to the lathe. I have the centerpiece. I may need to cut these tops off flush. I'm not there yet, so I just have to play that by ear and see how that turns out. Now the second one, the one with the PVC, appears to be accepting the resin more with more fluid. It's going down in between the sections more easily than the first one I did with the aluminum foil around it. I'm hoping that there's enough fluid viscosity with this resin that it seeps into all the crevices of these little, well, mainly not the wood, but the little pieces of resin. It's got a lot of things to get around. I'm hoping that it fills in all those spaces. And I was hoping that this aluminum tape would secure the resin from seeping out. You see how that's got caulk around it? Well, that's sealed very well, and it didn't let any of that resin seep out. And this one too I ended up pouring, and that's just resin that flowed over the edge, but it is not coming up and out from the bottom, which is really what you want. Considering the problems I had with the resin seeping up underneath and out and flowing all over the place, I decided to try this idea where I put the plastic tubes at the base with a solid layer of caulk down there, and then I'll just pour the resin around the outside of those plastic tubes. We'll see how that goes. And this additional pour that I did with that rubber gasket, I guess it's a gasket, the wood was floating up above the resin, so I had to tape it down, and I just used this heavy-duty duct tape. I also put duct tape around the base of the aluminum piece, trying to stop it from seeping out, but it's pretty hard. I should have put it on that board first and then caulked around it, but I didn't, or hot glue or something, and I didn't, but that's the way it goes. Now I'm taking the tape off. It's the next day, and all this stuff is dried pretty well. Those boards underneath that cherry log there, I put those there to make sure that the resin leveled out at the top of that black gasket. So when it comes to preparing these molds, now that they're all dry, to put onto the lathe, there's a number of choices that I could make. I could use a wormhole at the end. I could use a piece of wood that's the same size circumference wise as that cardboard in this case. After struggling for quite some time, I decided to cut the seam where the aluminum flashing joined and pull away that way, and I was very happy to see it pull away from this resin without any issues at all. So that was a big step in the right direction. And after having that aluminum flashing off, I was able to see how the blue and the black, charcoal gray, whatever you want to call it, blended very nicely. So I think when I mill this down and I see the wood strips and the other colors, it's going to look absolutely stunning. So at this point, I'm going to let these sit for a couple of weeks so I know they're rock solid, and milling them won't be a huge issue. But I'll have to figure out a way to prepare them for the lathe. That'll be my next challenge. That will be my next video. Stay tuned, subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks for watching.